in a recent interview between Dave Allen and Eddie Hearn, Dave Allen made it clear that he wanted to get back into the ring before the end of November. Of course, Eddie Hearn did push back on that following his loss to Makhmudov, wanting him to take more time off and fighting in January in an 8-rounder. And then after, if he was to win that, then potentially coming back and fighting a big name later on in the year, probably March, April, maybe the summer of 2026. And the name that's being floated out there was Zhilei Zhang. Now, Zhang is no scrub. Zhang's a big heavyweight, a big puncher. Not got an amazing gas tank. Not that I would say Dave Allen's got a good gas tank either. Was blowing out of his arse after about round 3, 4, 5 against Makhmudov. And Makhmudov himself is another guy who's not known for having a great gas tank. But nonetheless, Zhang's got some impressive wins under his belt and has been in there with a number of top heavyweights at this point. Been in there with Wilder. Beat the brakes off of Wilder, if I'm being honest. Put a beating on Wilder. Did lose to Joseph Parker, but it's a very spirited effort. Definitely came to fight and didn't just roll over as soon as Joseph Parker showed some resistance. Zhilei Zhang's definitely a guy who's, I would say, fringe world level. I'd say he's better than Makhmudov, though. If I'm being honest, I think he's been in there with a better boxer, better caliber of boxer than Makhmudov for sure. So yeah, I would tend to give Zhang the edge against Dave Allen, even though Dave Allen's calling him out. I guess Dave Allen at this point, he just wants those big paydays, right? And Zhang, for a guy like Dave Allen, Zhang is he's a bigger name than Makhmudov, 100%, because nobody had even really heard of Makhmudov before he fought Dave Allen, really, if we're being honest, especially in the UK. Maybe European boxing fans would have heard of Makhmudov after he lost to Cabello. I hear that. And even before he lost to Cabello, actually, he was a guy who had a bit of hype behind him because he was an undefeated guy with a lot of knockouts. Of course, he lost to Cabello, got fraud checked, and, we really saw his level. And even against Dave Allen, he pretty much outboxed Dave Allen and showed that Dave Allen's not quite at the level, but Zhang's at that level. And again, you're facing a guy who's at that level and you're not at that level, then what's going to happen always happens to Dave Allen when he steps up against someone with half a heartbeat. Maybe that's harsh, I don't know, because he wasn't great in the first Fisher fight. I think he done enough to win the fight, but again, it wasn't like he dominated him. He rematched Fisher, stopped him, right? And then he got comprehensively outboxed by Makhmudov. Makhmudov really didn't even have to get out of third gear in that fight, if we're being honest, right? And he want to fight Zhang, who I think, like I said many times in this video, I think Zhang's better than Makhmudov. But again, it'd be a decent money fight because, of course, Dave Allen, if he comes back, gets a win in an 8-rounder against a journeyman, gets a bit of momentum back, getting back in the media again. Dave Allen can create some hype for his vids, and the media love having Dave Allen around. That really does make a difference, and that means that Dave Allen's a very popular character now because he's such a nice bloke. The media like having him around. People like to interview him. People like to talk to him. So he's almost his own salesman. Where other fighters need to trash talk, Dave Allen's able to just be himself, and that's a big strength. Respect to Dave Allen for that. But can he beat Zhang? Probably not. But I think at that point, Zhang would probably beat him up. And then I think he probably calls it a day, if I'm being honest. Because you're a guy who's really not got any great wins on your resume. You're getting decent paydays at this point. That's the thing, though. And that's the thing for a guy like Dave Allen. Because he would have got a good payday against Johnny Fisher. Good payday against Makhmudov. And if he was to fight Zhang, he'd get a good payday against Zhang as well. But early on in his career, he wasn't getting huge paydays like that. And that's the thing. So if he's got 3 good paydays, is that enough to retire? I don't know how good those paydays are. I would imagine they'd be pretty healthy because in the Makhmudov fight, he sold a lot of tickets. But he didn't win the fight. So there's give and takes there. So a guy like Dave Allen, no doubt, he'll be fighting for as long as he needs to be fighting financially until he gets to a point where his health's really, really on the line. And I don't want to see it get to that. Ultimately, I don't want to see it get to a point where his health's really on the line because I never want to see that for any boxer. But I'd be super curious to know what you guys think of that fight. Do you think Dave Allen should fight Zhang? Do you think that fight makes sense? Do you think that fight makes money? Do you think he can win that fight? I'd be super curious to know what you guys think in the comments below. And yeah, another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.